Hands Off My Podcast is a proud member of Darkcast Network, presenting the brightest of indie podcasts.
Hello, my name is DJ, and I'm the host of the Mythical True Crime Podcast. Join me and the Darkcast Network of indie podcast creators as we delve into the mysterious and the macabre, exploring captivating tales of true crime, legends, and unsolved mysteries from the realms of mythology and reality. Uncover the dark true tales of modern legends with our spoken narratives that blend history, crime, and the supernatural. Just starting Season 3, you can listen to the newest episodes every other week, as well as all my backlog episodes on anywhere you can listen to your podcasts.
Hola, my beautiful humans. This is Jasmine Castillo, and I bring stories and cases from the people of color community, bringing awareness of murdered and missing Indigenous women, girls, two-spirits, the LGBTQ community, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, Black Indigenous people of color. These are their stories. So, welcome to Hands Off My Podcast. Hello, my homekins. January is considered the National Human Trafficking and Slavery Prevention Month, and is designated time to raise awareness about the devastating issue and combat it through various efforts. The timeline of human trafficking is long. For as long as humans have existed, human trafficking has existed. It occurs in every corner of the world, and thanks to the internet, the issue is no longer contained by physical boundaries. Approximately 30 million people across the world are currently held as captives, moving from place to place as victims of human trafficking. It is estimated that 17,500 victims are brought to the U.S. each year. A number of the FBI's most notorious trafficking areas are in California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and here, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. The average age of those forced into this illegal trade is between 12 to 14 years old. Texas's Dallas-Fort Worth area accounts for 15% of calls to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. As a result of the high proportion of trafficking-related crimes, global authorities have identified Russia, China, Iran, Belarus, and Venezuela as some of the top countries. It destroys the lives of thousands of people each year while padding criminals' pockets with more than $32 billion. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, human trafficking is the act of gathering, moving, receiving, or keeping human beings by threat, force, coercion, or deception for exploitative purposes. This includes the exploitation of prostitution of others or other form of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery or practices similar to slavery, servitude, or the removal of organs. This is the definition that has only been in place since 2000. If any person whatsoever of the gender, whatever their age, is brought somewhere against his or her will, or without full information about what he or she is getting into, it is already human trafficking. In addition, if a person is coerced by a superior or someone in power over them to become a victim, it is also considered human trafficking. Also, while the sex trade is the most known form of human trafficking, the current protocol extends even to illegal labor migration. This definition developed over the history of human trafficking. Human trafficking is actually commonly referred to as modern-day slavery. While the words slavery and human trafficking are frequently used interchangeably, slavery has a more general definition. In the Merriam-Webster defines slavery as the state of a person who is held in forced servitude. Now, slavery is no longer legal anywhere in the world, but human trafficking still occurs in every country. Here's a brief history of human trafficking, including a timeline of events in the United States and internationally that have shaped our understanding of human trafficking and the fight against it. The transatlantic slave trade, which began in the 16th century when European nations such as Portugal started buying or capturing Africans and bringing them to Europe. This continued for approximately 350 years, with a total of 12.5 million slaves being shipped from Africa to the various parts of the world, including North America, where between 300,000 and 400,000 arrived. Although owning African slaves were legal during this time period, it was eventually outlawed by Britain in 1807 and by the United States in 1820, which was nearly 4 decades before the American Civil War. Despite these laws, the last reported transatlantic slave voyage arrived in the Americas in 1866. The influx of Chinese immigrants into the United States between 1850 and 1900, primarily driven by the economic opportunities related to the California gold rush and construction of the Central Pacific Railroad. However, as their numbers grew, they faced discrimination and violence due to perceived competition for jobs. Additionally, there were concerns about the use of coolie, labor from China, as a form of modern slavery. In response, the Page Act was passed in 1875 to limit Asian immigration and prevent trafficking of women for prostitution. This led to an overwhelming male majority among Chinese immigrants in the U.S. Despite this law, illegal trafficking of Chinese women continued through organized gangs known as tongs well into the early 1900s. The international efforts to combat white slavery in the early 20th century was a term referred to the forced prostitution of European women, often immigrants, and was seen as a form of human trafficking. In response, several conferences were held and an agreement called the Mann Act was signed in 1904 to address this issue. The focus was on protecting migrant women and children from being forced into prostitution. In 1910, an international convention was signed by 13 countries to make white slave trade illegal. Now, in 1919, the International Labor Organization was formed to establish protective standards for working conditions. This includes issues such as pay and hours. The League of Nations was founded in 1920 after World War I, with a focus on maintaining world peace and addressing international issues like human trafficking. In 1921, 33 countries signed the International Convention for the Suppression of Traffic in Women and Children at a League of Nations conference representing progress in recognizing all races and genders as victims of trafficking. So now we circle back to National Human Trafficking and Slavery Prevention Month became an observed awareness that was finally established in 2010 by presidential proclamation, building upon the commitment enshrined in the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000. Despite increased international attention and resources from states and other non-governmental institutions, the number of people falling victim to human trafficking around the world continues to grow. Between 2008 and 2019, the number of human trafficking victims identified worldwide more than quadrupled, from around 30,000 to nearly 120,000. With the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of trafficking victims fell, as travel restrictions made human trafficking more difficult. However, trafficking in persons is an illegal practice that is shaded in secrecy. It is therefore nearly impossible to measure in its entirety. So many children go missing and more even not reported or even heard in the news. Take, for example, a 13-year-old teen, which I will call her Savannah D., was identified as an endangered missing teen. There was no other articles nor any other social media platforms talking about Savannah D., like she was just removed from existence. Savannah D. is like many kids who have lost their place in this world. Many resort to running away from something, or running towards something. We will never know at this moment. I don't have any clarification as to how long Savannah D. was in foster care, However, there are only 2 reports of her going missing in less than 3 years apart. Savannah D., a Berea teen that went missing on April 6, 2013, at the age of 14 years old. Then, at age 17, she went missing on February 13, 2016. Berea police initially considered Savannah D. as an endangered runaway. On her missing persons flyer, they added the lines that read, "Possibly involved in human trafficking in Cleveland or Warrensville Heights hotels." When Savannah went missing in 2016, she was last seen leaving her foster home in Berea, Ohio. Her foster mom had told reporters that she hadn't seen or heard from Savannah in months and was shocked to hear police believe she may be a victim of trafficking. I have reached out to the Berea Police Department for an update on her disappearance. Like I mentioned, there was no additional information in regards to a follow-up on her disappearance. Thankfully, it was confirmed that Savannah did come back home in January of 2017. Not all children come back on their own accord. Like Savannah or Alicia Navarro or myself, we might be considered the lucky ones, but it is still a long healing journey for us and for the ones that are left behind and or forgotten. The foster care system and trafficking seems to come hand in hand in instances, and sometimes there is a confusion about who is responsible for reporting a foster child. For example, foster parents, social workers, and law enforcement may have different understandings of their reporting responsibilities. The fear of retribution may prevent foster parents from reporting a missing child, leading them to hesitate to do so. And a child that believes to be a runaway aren't always reported missing immediately, as it is believed they will return on their own. Reporting standards vary among states and agencies. Some consider any child not in their designated placement as missing, while others have specific requirements or timeframes for missing children. Lack of centralized data collection for tracking missing children in foster care across the U.S. data often comes from individual state reports or audits, making it difficult to obtain a comprehensive national picture. It is estimated suggests of tens of thousands of children go missing just from foster care annually. A 2023 audit by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services found over 34,000 cases of missing foster children were not reported to authorities. And here are some efforts to improve the reporting. A federal legislation called the Preventing Sex Trafficking and Strengthening Families Act of 2014 mandates that state agencies report missing children in care to both law enforcement and NCMEC within 24 hours. Increased awareness like the organizations NCMEC and the National Foster Parent Association are raising awareness about the issue of missing children in foster care and advocating for better reporting practices. And some of the technology solutions that some states are exploring the use of technologies such as GPS tracking devices to help monitor the whereabouts of children in foster care. In 2022, the Ohio Attorney General's Human Trafficking Commission's annual report identified 148 potential and confirmed victims of human trafficking, including both adults and children. Children in runaway and homeless situations, foster care, and those involved in child welfare systems are at increased risk of trafficking. It is important to remember that even one missing child is a tragedy, and everyone involved in the foster care system has a responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of children in their care. So in this episode, by working together, we can improve reporting practices and support systems to help prevent children from going missing and ensure they are found quickly and safely if they do. Governments all over the world rely heavily on local and international non-governmental organizations, which is also called NGOs, to fight human trafficking. Several of them were founded to fight human trafficking exclusively, including Call to Rescue, Polaris, and Anti-Slavery International, Save the Children, Child Hope, Women's Rights Worldwide, and Amnesty International are among the NGOs that participate and cooperate against human trafficking. If you wish to join the fight against human trafficking, you may donate to NGOs, volunteer with local NGOs, or report suspicions of trafficking. It is also possible for all citizens to be aware of human trafficking schemes and protect themselves against them through a responsible travel, self-defense, and caution whenever recruiting or negotiating. If you or someone you know is a victim of human trafficking, call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. This is a hotline that provides 24/7 confidential support and assistance to victims of human trafficking and anyone concerned about it. They can connect you with resources and services in your area. If you enjoy our show, please rate us on Apple or Spotify. And be sure to come back and listen to us every other Thursday. Until then, this is Jasmine Castillo. We are Voiceless No More. Proud member of Darkcast Network, Uncovered.com, Transdo Task Force, Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, and partner with Search and Support San Antonio and Seasons of Justice.